That night, late, she said she wanted a divorce. I didn't try to keep her, calmly producing the divorce agreement I had already prepared. She froze, likely not expecting this husband, always gentle and tolerant, could be so resolute. At that moment, I told myself, the rest of life is long. There's no need to force things with someone who doesn't love you, nor betray yourself for someone who doesn't know how to love. At 11 o'clock at night, the piano music started again. I put down the exam papers I was halfway through grading and gently pushed open the study door. Moonlight streamed through the hallway's glass window, casting silvery white streaks of light on the floor. Waylon sat at the piano in the living room, her slender fingers dancing across the black and white keys. This was the third time this week. Usually by this time, she would have already gone to rest. After all, she had classes the next day. But lately, she always played the piano late at night when it was quiet, playing for hours at a time. I had never heard her play that piece before. The melody was melancholic and lingering. Her focused profile, bathed in moonlight, reminded me of how she looked when I first saw her in high school. Back then, she was the famously talented girl in school, while I was just an ordinary Chinese language class representative in the next class. Go get some rest. You have classes tomorrow. I walked over and said softly. Her fingers paused for a moment, then resumed playing. You go ahead and sleep. I'll go after I finish this piece. I stood behind her, watching her shoulders tremble slightly. That light blue nightgown was bought for our third wedding anniversary. Now, it looked somehow unfamiliar. Returning to the study, I continued grading papers. The students' immature handwriting told me that the theme of youth is never-ending. But now, I suddenly couldn't understand my own wife. The piano music still echoed in the living room. I opened the drawer, ready to take out the next stack of homework. Suddenly, a yellowed envelope fell out from the back. It was something I found last week while sorting through old things. Inside the envelope was a photograph. In the photo was a young boy holding a guitar, his smile radiant and bold. The background was the high school music room, with several guitars hanging on the wall. On the back of the photo was written, "To Lon Lon, only music witnesses our growth." It was signed Zi Qian. This photo should have been thrown out with the other old things. But for some reason, acting on some impulse, I kept it. Perhaps it was because I had never seen a photo of Wei Lon with anyone else. Apart from our wedding photos, she always seemed uninterested in having pictures taken. Suddenly, the piano music stopped abruptly. I got up, wanted to go see, but then I heard suppressed sobbing coming from the bathroom. The crying was very soft. If it weren't for the extraordinary quiet of the late night, I might have missed it. I stood where I was, unsure whether I should push the door open. Lately, Wei Lon was always like this, crying where I couldn't see her. During the day, she was still that gentle music teacher, but once night fell, it was as if she became a different person. My phone vibrated. It was a news item forwarded by a colleague. Famous musician Wu Ziqian to return to his hometown for a solo concert. My heart suddenly clenched tight. Wasn't the name on the photo on the desk Zi Qian? The sobbing from the bathroom gradually subsided. I heard Wei Lan's soft footsteps returning to the bedroom. When everything had quieted down, I opened my phone and searched for the name Wu Ziqian. It turned out he was once the most famous underground musician in this city. He went abroad to study 8 years ago and was now a somewhat famous music producer. And 8 years ago was exactly when Wei Lan and I met. I turned off my phone and looked out the window. A night moth fluttered towards the desk lamp, then flew away in a panic. Just like my mood at this moment, agitated and uneasy. "Teacher, what song are we learning today?" The children gathered around the piano, their eyes sparkling. Wei Lan was about to speak when a song, unfamiliar yet familiar, suddenly played over the classroom broadcast system. I stood in the hallway, watching through the window as her fingers trembled above the piano keys. That was Wu Ziqian's new song. Ever since he announced his comeback concert, the song had been appearing frequently everywhere. "Teacher, what's wrong?" a little girl asked, tilting her head up. Wei Lan realized she had spaced out and forced a smile. "It's nothing. Let's learn that nursery rhyme from last time." After school, only the two of us were left in the office. She sat in front of the computer, the screen showing the concert ticket purchase page. Seeing me come in, she hastily closed the page, pretending to organize her lesson plans. "Thinking of going to the concert?" I asked softly. Her body visibly stiffened, just casually browsing. I sat down opposite her. Her favorite blueberry fruit tea was on the table, already cold. If you want to go, I can help you buy tickets. No need. She lowered her head. I'm not interested in that sort of thing. But your phone's playback history is full of his songs. The words lingered on the tip of my tongue, but I swallowed them back down. When we got home that evening, she said she needed to go to the supermarket to buy things. I knew she was going to meet Zhang Xiaomei, because the phone's location showed she was at a coffee shop. Ever since the news of Wu Ziqian's return spread, she had been meeting Zhang Xiaomei frequently. I turned on the computer. The browser history still showed traces of searches for Wu Ziqian first love news. So, during those late nights, she wasn't just playing the piano. I suddenly remembered grading essays a couple of days ago. A student wrote, "Some people are like the spring wind. Once they blow past, you can never find them again." At the time, I even praised the line in my comments for being well written. Only now did I understand that some people, even though they've been gone a long time, can still, at certain moments, make your heart ache sharply again. Weilon came back very late, carrying 2 plastic bags. The supermarket had a sale, so I bought a bit extra. Her tone was slightly uneasy. I took the bags. Inside, besides daily necessities, there was a black dress. The tag was still on. It wasn't a style she would normally buy. "The new dress looks nice," I said. The season's changing soon." She quickly hung the dress in the closet. "I'm going to take a shower." The sound of water came from the bathroom. I opened my phone, and the concert promotional image caught my eye. Next Saturday, 8 p.m., Starlight Gymnasium. The accompanying picture showed Wu Ziqian holding a guitar, his smile still sunny. Compared to that old photo, he didn't seem to have changed much. The sound of water stopped. Weilon came out wrapped in a bath towel. Seeing me looking at my phone, she looked a bit flustered. "Not resting yet? You have to get up early tomorrow." In a moment, I turn off my phone. "By the way, next Saturday, I might have a gathering with colleagues. I'll probably be back very late." She paused for a second, then nodded. "Okay, I understand." Watching her back, I suddenly wanted to ask, "Do you remember our first date?" It was also at the Starlight Gymnasium. We watched a basketball game that day. You said you really liked the atmosphere there and wanted to go again sometime. Now, you're finally going again. Only the person beside you has changed. I touched the wedding ring on my hand. It was a plain platinum band. When I proposed, I was short on cash, so I could only afford the simplest style. She said she liked it very much because the simplest things are the most moving. Thinking back now, maybe it wasn't that the simple ring was moving, but that she had just gotten used to settling. After all, some people's halos are just too dazzling. And I am just an ordinary Chinese teacher. You really don't know? Zhang Xiaomei's voice was a bit hoarse from the alcohol. We were sitting on her balcony, the moonlight stretching her shadow long. This was the after-party following the weekend teachers' gathering. Everyone else had left, leaving just us. I shook my head and poured her some tea. She had already drunk too much. If she kept going, she'd have a headache tomorrow. Actually, back then, she looked up, her gaze somewhat vacant. Weilon and Ziqian's situation. It wasn't a simple breakup. My hand paused. Zhang Xiaomei was Weilan's best friend. All these years, I had vaguely sensed she was always hiding something from me, but I never asked why. Zhang Xiaomei's voice dropped. She threatened Weilon with suicide. Tea splashed onto my hand, scalding hot, but I couldn't feel the pain anymore. That year, Ziqian was going abroad for further studies. They had planned to go together. Weilon had already gotten her passport ready, but when Annie G found out, she swallowed a whole bottle of sleeping pills. I remembered the family photo hanging on the wall of my mother-in-law's house. In the photo, Weilon was wearing her graduation gown, her smile somewhat forced. So that photo was taken after this incident. Later, Annie G was hospitalized. The doctor said it was depression. She spent her days crying, saying if Weilon dared to leave, she would really kill herself for her to see. Zhang Xiaomei took a sip of tea. Ziqian did come to the hospital, but he was scared off by Annie G's crying and screaming. So he just left like that? Yeah. Zhang Xiaomei gave a wry smile. Before leaving, he only left a note. Sorry. I clenched the teacup tightly. So my wife had once had her own choices, but the double shackles of fate and family bonds had trapped her where she was. After that, Zhang Xiaomei continued, Auntie G started introducing potential partners to Wei Lan. You were the third one. She rejected the first two, but when she saw you, she agreed. I finished her sentence. Yes. Zhang Xiaomei sighed. Do you know why? Because you're also a teacher, and you have a good personality. Most importantly, the way you look is a bit like Zi Qian from high school. I gave a wry smile. So I was just a substitute, a perfect choice to put my mother-in-law's mind at ease. No wonder all these years, at every family gathering, my mother-in-law looked at me with a hint of smug satisfaction. I'm sorry, Zhang Xiaomei said suddenly. I always wanted to tell you, but I was afraid of ruining your relationship. Now that Zi Qian is back, I'm afraid. It's okay. I stood up. At least now I know the truth. A light rain started falling on the way home. I remembered our wedding night, how Wei Lan had cried so heartbrokenly in my arms. Back then, I thought she was sad about leaving her parents. Only now did I understand she was saying goodbye to her youth and her dreams. The light in the entryway was still on. Wei Lan was already asleep. Her phone lay on a nightstand, the screen still lit. I glanced at it. An e-ticket for a front row seat at a concert. So, without my knowing, she had already made her choice. Just like back then, without my knowing, she had also made a choice. I gently closed the door and sat on the sofa until dawn. At daybreak, a moth bumped against the window, making a faint sound. Only then did I realize that, unknowingly, summer had arrived, and my marriage with Wei Lan, like this lost moth, was in its final struggle. Next, let's welcome our special guest, the famous musician Wu Ziqian, to perform a song, When We Were Young. Before the host had even finished speaking, the entire auditorium erupted. I stood in a corner backstage, watching the waves of screams from the audience below. This was the annual Campus Arts Festival. I hadn't expected the principal to arrange such a big surprise. He walked past me, holding his guitar, still carrying that rebellious air from his youth. The guitar looked familiar. It was the exact one from the photo. It seemed he had carried it with him everywhere all these years. In the front row, Wei Lan was completely stiff. She had brought the children to perform today. They had already finished their act and were excitedly discussing their performance. But she seemed to hear nothing, her gaze fixed firmly on the stage. This song is for my younger self, and also for a girl I once knew. Wu Ziqian's voice spread through the entire auditorium via the microphone. I wonder how she's doing now. The intro began, a very familiar melody. I remember those late nights when Wei Lan played this very song on the piano. So, she had remembered all along. Wei Lan's shoulders started to tremble. A little girl tugged at the corner of her clothes. Teacher, why are you crying? She hastily wiped away her tears, forcing a smile. Maybe the lights are too bright. But the main lights in the auditorium were clearly off today. The singing continued. Wu Ziqian's gaze swept across the audience, pausing noticeably the moment he saw Wei Lan. His fingers trembled slightly on the strings, nearly hitting the wrong chord. Sighs rippled through the audience. The song evoked nostalgia for youth in everyone. But only I knew this wasn't a nostalgic song, but an apology letter 8 years late. Wei Lan suddenly stood up and stumbled towards the exit. A few children wanted to follow, but she gently stopped them. Teacher is just going to the restroom. I'll be right back. I hesitated for a moment, but still followed her out. Suppressed sobs could be heard from the restroom at the end of the hallway. The sound was so familiar, exactly like when she cried at the piano late at night. I stood at the door, unsure of what to say. The sound of music came through the walls. The lead singer had changed. Just then, a familiar figure hurried out from the backstage door. It was Wu Ziqian. He had clearly heard the crying too and looked in this direction. I turned and left. There were some scenes I shouldn't be present for, like their separation 8 years ago, and their reunion now. Neither had anything to do with me. Back in the auditorium, the performance had ended. The host was announcing the next act, but the atmosphere in the audience remained unsettled. Everyone was discussing the song, guessing who the girl mentioned in it was. Wei Lan didn't return, even after the event ended. Zhang Xiaomei helped look after the children for her, even giving each of them a candy, saying the teacher had asked her to. At 11 o'clock at night, lying in bed, I heard the sound of a car starting outside. Getting up and walking to the window, I saw Wei Lan getting into an unfamiliar car. The person inside was Wu Ziqian. I closed the window and turned on the TV, trying to distract myself. The news was reporting on today's arts festival. The reporter called it the most successful one this year. The camera panned across the audience, freezing on Wei Lan's tear-streaked face. So, our marriage was like this arts festival, a success on the surface, yet hiding an unspoken bitterness. It's about time. You should go pick up Wei Lan. My mother-in-law looked at her watch and urged. Today was my father-in-law's 60th birthday. Our family had booked a private room at a hotel near the old family house. Wei Lan had specifically chosen this place, saying it was because of the nice environment. But I knew it was mainly because it was very close to Wu Zichin's studio. No need. I put down my chopsticks. She said she'd come on her own. As soon as the words left my mouth, the door to the private room was pushed open. Wei Lan walked in, followed by a figure. Everyone present froze simultaneously. Wu Ziqian, holding a bottle of red wine. I heard it was Uncle's birthday. Happened to be passing by, so I came to offer congratulations. I noticed Wei Lan's expression was somewhat flustered. She kept her head down and quickly walked over to sit beside me. Her fingertips unconsciously twisted her wedding ring. The platinum band looked a little loose on her slender finger. Come, come. My father-in-law enthusiastically poured wine for Wu Ziqian. Sit over here. The spot he pointed to was directly opposite Wei Lan. The atmosphere at the dinner table became somewhat awkward. My father-in-law focused on drinking. Meanwhile, Wei Lan kept her head lowered the entire time, her chopsticks untouched. Right, father-in-law said suddenly. Ziqian, why don't you play a song for everyone? Well, Wu Ziqian glanced at Wei Lan. Father-in-law said with a smile, didn't you used to play for us often at home? My hand, under the table, clenched into a fist. Those words were too hurtful, like a knife stabbing straight into my heart. Wu Ziqian, emboldened by the alcohol, actually went to the music room next door and fetched a guitar. He said it was a newly composed song called Forgive. Wei Lan's hand was trembling, the wedding ring looking precarious on her fingertip. I reached out to steady her, but she gently avoided my touch. Hidden in the song were secret signals only they understood. I saw Wei Lan's tears drip onto the back of her hand, spreading into a small, damp patch. All right, mother-in-law suddenly stood up. The old man has had too much to drink. It's time for him to rest. The dinner ended abruptly like that. Before leaving, Wu Ziqian gave father-in-law 2 tickets for the concert next week. I hope uncle and auntie can come. On the way home, Wei Lan said nothing. Her fingers kept twisting her wedding ring, as if the ring had suddenly become very heavy, or perhaps too light. If you want to go to the concert, I broke the silence. I can go with you. No need. Her voice was a little hoarse. I don't want to go, but I knew she would definitely go. Just like in high school, whenever Wu Ziqian performed, she would secretly sit in the last row. Zhang Xiaomei told me this. It was late at night. I was smoking alone on the balcony. The sound of a car starting came from downstairs. It was Wu Ziqian driving away. He drove very slowly, and as he passed our building, he honked the horn once. The bedroom light immediately turned on, then quickly went out again. I stubbed out my cigarette and stood on the balcony for a long time. Not until the sky showed the first light of dawn did I see a small dark spot slip from Wei Lan's finger. It was her wedding ring. She bent down to pick it up, but didn't put it back on. Instead, she gently placed it on the dressing table. At that moment, I suddenly understood that our marriage, like this ring, could no longer hold her heart. I stood by the window, looking at the street scene below. This was the 4th time this month that Wei Lan said she had to work late, but instead sat in a coffee shop with Wu Ziqian until dark. In the photos Zhang Xiaomei sent, they were talking and laughing. Wu Ziqian still had that same carefree attitude, occasionally playing snippets on his guitar for Wei Lan. And Wei Lan, the smile on her face was much brighter than when she was at home. Lately, I've been thinking constantly about whether I should talk to them. But every time I walked to the coffee shop entrance and saw that long-absent smile on Wei Lan's face, I would silently turn and leave. Life had to go on. I still had a class of students to teach. Matters of the heart could be dealt with later. At 7 in the evening, Wei Lan sent a message. Accompanying Mom to the mall today, might be back late. I glanced out the window. It was raining heavily. Mother-in-law never liked going out in this kind of weather. But I still replied, okay, be safe. A little later, I saw Zhang Xiaomei's social media post. They had gone to the movies, right next to Starlight Plaza. I put down my phone, opened my laptop, and started preparing tomorrow's lesson plan. On the screen was the presentation for 6 records of a floating life, telling the love story of Shun Fu and Yunyang. I used to really like this topic, but now I didn't know how to explain the true meaning of mutual understanding and lifelong companionship to my students. After 10 o'clock, Weilon returned. She still carried the faint scent of coffee, but her eyes were unusually evasive. The mall was a bit crowded. Mom spent a long time shopping. I continued organizing the lesson plan. I'll go with you next time. She froze for a moment, then quickly walked into the bathroom. The sound of running water started, and I heard her suppressed sobs from inside again. This was the 3rd time this month. Every time after telling a lie, she would hide in the bathroom and cry. Perhaps she felt guilty, perhaps she was struggling. But more likely, she had finally realized that she had still chosen betrayal. I got up and walked to the window. The rain was still falling, tapping crisply against the glass. Downstairs, a car drove slowly past. The license plate was very familiar. The folder in the drawer had grown thicker again. I knew one day it wouldn't close anymore, just like this marriage eventually headed towards its end. But until that day came, I chose to remain silent, because some pain cuts deeper than betrayal. That is watching someone you deeply love struggle painfully over another relationship. I want a divorce. Why? I heard myself ask in an unusually calm voice. The answer was already in my heart, but I still wanted to hear her say it herself. Weilon lowered her head, her fingers gripping the cup tightly. She had put on makeup today. The cherry-colored lipstick made her look even more radiant and captivating. This was how she usually dressed when seeing Wu Ziqian. We can't go back anymore. As she said this, her gaze drifted out the window. Sunlight streamed through the sheer curtains, outlining her slender profile with a soft halo. I put down my coffee cup and got up, walking toward the study. The overstuffed folder in the drawer was meant for when I confronted her, but now, its existence was meaningless. When I returned to the living room, she was still in the same position. Only the coffee in her hand had gone cold, a faint lip print staining the rim of the cup. "All right," I said. "I've already had the lawyer draft the agreement." She looked up sharply, a flicker of surprise in her eyes. Perhaps she hadn't expected me to agree so readily, or perhaps she was surprised that I was already prepared. "Do you want the house or the car?" I continued. "We'll split the savings 50-50. See if you have any other demands." "You?" Her voice trembled slightly. "You're just this calm?" I looked at her, the woman who had been with me for 5 years. Once upon a time, I thought we would keep going on like this forever. Only now did I understand that some people walk in opposite directions right from the start. "What else?" I gave a bitter smile. "Should I beg you to stay, or should I have a hysterical breakdown?" She lowered her head again, tears dripping on her collar, spreading into dark, wet patches. "I'm sorry." "No need to say sorry." I cut her off. "Everyone has the right to choose their own happiness. Let's handle the paperwork tomorrow." She stood up abruptly, her high heels clicking sharply on the floor. I thought she was about to say something, but she just grabbed her bag and walked quickly towards the entryway. Bang! The door slammed shut heavily. The scent of her perfume still lingered in the air, mixing with the bitterness of the coffee, making it somewhat suffocating. I sat on the sofa for a long time, until the vibration of my phone pulled me back to reality. It was a text message from an unknown number. "I will treat her well, don't worry." I looked at the message and suddenly laughed. So, while I was unaware, they had already planned everything. The sunlight was still warm, spilling onto the floor, casting patterns of light and shadow. 5 years ago, this season, we had also stood in sunlight like this, dreaming of the future. Back then, she said she wanted to watch the sunset's afterglow with me. I stood up and began packing away our memories, piece by piece. Photos, letters, pictures of the two of us, and the souvenir that was never given. A small wooden music box that played Fur Elise. I had planned to give it to her on our next wedding anniversary. Now, none of it mattered anymore. I walked out onto the balcony and lit a cigarette. Down on the street below, people came and went, everyone hurrying past. 5 years of marriage ended just like that, on an ordinary weekend morning. Turns out, letting go was much easier than I'd imagined. Perhaps because I had long anticipated this day's arrival. The divorce proceedings went smoother than expected. In just one short month, Wei Lan and I went from husband and wife to strangers. Teacher Chung, want to grab a drink together? Zhang Xiaomei hesitated on the phone. Wei Lan, what's wrong? She moved in with Wu Ziqian, but Zhang Xiaomei paused. She doesn't seem very happy. I was silent for a moment. That's her choice. It has nothing to do with me anymore. Hanging up the phone, I continued tidying the study. In the corner was a dust-covered cardboard box. It held our wedding video. Opening it, I saw the old invitation and wedding photos were still inside. Wei Lan in the photo smiled so sweetly, as if she were truly happy. A car horn sounded from outside the window. I walked to the window and happened to see Wu Ziqian's car parked downstairs. Wei Lan got out of the passenger seat and walked into the building entrance, probably here to pick up the rest of her things. I put on a jacket and went out. Running into her wasn't a good idea. Wandering aimlessly on the street, I found myself at the noodle shop we used to frequent. The owner saw me and habitually prepared 2 servings. Is your wife not coming today? I paused. It'll just be me from now on. The owner stared surprised. But your wife was here yesterday with a man who plays the guitar. She was crying very hard, and the man kept saying sorry. My hand paused, and noodle soup splashed onto my clothes. Is that so? That's good then. It didn't seem like a good thing. The owner sighed. The man kept talking about going abroad for his career, said he wanted to take your wife with him. But she refused no matter what, just kept crying. I put down my chopsticks. So, the story had another twist. Returning home, I found Wei Lan was still there. She was squatting in the corner of the study, hugging that cardboard box with the wedding video, her shoulders shaking. Take it all, I said. She looked up, her eye makeup smudged. I'm sorry. I thought you weren't home. It's fine. I turned to leave. Wait, she suddenly called out to me. There's something I think you should know. I stopped, but didn't turn around. Ziqian, he's going abroad for his career. He asked me to go with him to start over. Her voice was choked with tears, but I got scared. Just like 8 years ago, I'm scared again. I finally turned around. I don't know. She covered her face. Back then, it was my mother who stopped me. Now, it's me who doesn't dare to go. I thought after all these years, I'd become braver, but you just finally seen the truth, I said. He will always be someone who can abandon everything for his dreams, and you were never part of those dreams. She froze, tears streaming down her cheeks, but I thought he had changed. People don't change. I gave a bitter smile. Just like you, you've loved him from beginning to end. I'm sorry. Her voice grew quieter. No, I should be thanking you. I walked to the window. For making me understand that some people are destined to just be passers-by in life. She stood up, clutching the cardboard box, her steps a bit unsteady. That music box, was it meant for me? I saw it in the drawer. Yes. I kept looking out the window. I originally intended to give it to you on our wedding anniversary. Behind me came the sound of suppressed sobbing, then footsteps fading away. Only when the door gently clicked shut did I turn back around. Sorting out the house is time-consuming work. Photos, cards. 5 years of memories lay spread out on the floor. Our photo together was still on the living room shelf. It was taken last spring festival at my mother's house. She leaned on my shoulder, smiling so radiantly. Back then, she must have already been contemplating leaving. On the balcony, the leaves of the succulents she had tended herself were mostly withered. I remembered her words on the day she left. Help me look after them. But I can't even look after myself. How could I look after these little things? In the study, the cardboard boxes piled higher and higher. I packed everything I could find into them. Her teaching plans, the homework I had graded, the memos we wrote together. In the last drawer, there was a yellowed notebook. Flipping it open, I saw it was her diary. The earliest page was written 3 years ago. Today is our 2nd wedding anniversary. A yuan gave me a pot of succulents, saying it should grow quietly, just like our love. But why do I always feel so empty inside? Like those unfinished songs, like those words left unsaid. I closed the notebook. I remembered how I had specifically chosen her favorite type that day. She had cried with emotion then. Looking back now, perhaps it wasn't emotion, but guilt. There was a stack of handwritten love letters in the bedside cabinet. All from when we had just met, the ones I wrote to her. My handwriting was childish then, the pages full of naive declarations of love. She'd said she would treasure them. I hadn't realized she'd kept every single one. Suddenly, I found a box under the bed. Inside was her pocket money. She had been secretly saving money to buy me a camera. I remembered she had asked me last year on my birthday what I wanted most. These details felt like small knives carving into my heart. It turned out she had tried too, had wanted to nurture this relationship. But in the end, those efforts couldn't bear the weight of memories. In the walk-in closet, most of her clothes were gone. Only a blue dress was left, the one we bought for our wedding anniversary last year. She'd said it was her most expensive dress, and she couldn't bear to wear it. Now, the dress still hung in its place, carrying the faint scent of mothballs. When I got to the kitchen, I saw the coffee machine in the corner. It was our first wedding gift. She had said she would make me coffee every day. Eventually, the coffee machine gathered dust, and she no longer had the heart for it. Ding dong. The doorbell rang. I opened the door. It was the movers, here for the boxes. Sir, should all this be taken away? Yes. I pointed to the mountain of boxes. Please deliver them to this address. It was the address of Wayland's new place. These memories, it felt less like sending them to her and more like returning them. After all, keeping some things would only bring more pain. After the movers finished and left, the house felt suddenly vast and empty. Without her things, the place felt like a soulless husk. I walked out onto the balcony. The cold wind made me shiver. This time of year, the view from this angle perfectly framed half the setting sun. I remembered she used to say this was her favorite view. But now, she would never see this sunset again. The balcony at her new place faced east. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Zhang Xiaomei. Mr. Chung, Weilan received the boxes. She's looking at the photos and crying a lot. Have you too? I didn't reply. Some tears weren't mine to wipe away. Like some views, once you miss them, they're gone. You changed all your contact information? Zhang Xiaomei asked me on the phone. Yes. I continued grading homework. A new start needs a new number. There was silence on the other end for a moment. Weilan asked me how you're doing every day. She says. She regretted it. My pen tip paused, drawing a long ink line across the test paper. I looked up out of the window. The sky was overcast, looking like it was about to rain. Mr. Chung, Zhang Xiaomei's voice was somewhat hesitant. She really wants to see you, even if it's just for the last time. There's no need for that. I closed the exercise book. Tell her to take care of herself. After hanging up, I saw the desk calendar on my office table. It marked today as the day of Wu Ziqian's concert again. Weilan would probably go, right? Just like in high school, sitting in the last row, secretly watching the person on stage. During lunch, I scrolled upon a news item. Famous musician Wu Ziqian proposed to buy fan live at concert. In the accompanying picture, a fan knelt on one knee. She was a pretty young girl. My phone vibrated. It was a message from Zhang Xiaomei. Weilan saw the news. Although it was a farce, she broke down. I turned off the phone and continued eating. The restaurant TV was still playing this news. The host said this was what a true fan looked like. The camera scanned the audience. I seemed to see a familiar figure. Halfway through the afternoon class, the office director came looking for me. Mr. Chung, your wife is downstairs looking for you. I'm already divorced. I continued writing on the blackboard. Please turn her away from me. But the director hesitated. She's been standing in the rain for a long time. The rain outside was falling harder and harder. I knew Weilan was most afraid of getting caught in the rain. Every time it rained, I would pick her up from work on time. Boom! A loud clap of thunder exploded, and immediately after, the classroom lights went out. The students laughed and joked. I motioned for them to be quiet. Using the light from outside the window, I could vaguely make out a figure holding an umbrella downstairs. All right, class. I put down the chalk. That's all for today's lesson. As I finished packing my lesson plan and prepared to leave, I noticed an envelope on the lectern. My name was written on it. It was Weiland's handwriting. Opening it, I found a plane ticket inside. The destination was the city she once dreamed of. Today's date was printed on the ticket. The plane had already taken off. There was also a note in the envelope. This is the place he promised to take me. Now, I finally understand. Some people will never stop for anyone, while some people are worth loving for a lifetime. I'm sorry, I realized it too late. I tossed the envelope into the drawer, preparing to leave work. Just then, my phone lit up again. It was a message from an unknown number. Are you in the office? I'm waiting downstairs for you. Looking through the curtain of rain, Wei Lan was still standing there. She wasn't holding an umbrella. Her whole body was soaked by the rain. Her hair clung tightly to her face, just like how she looked when we first met. Please, just see me once. Another message came in. I turned off the phone, picked up my bag, ready to leave. Passing by the trash can, I saw a bouquet of rain-wilted roses lying inside. They were her favorite pink color. The petals were already slightly curled. It seemed she had waited a long time, long enough for the flowers to wilt. When I got downstairs, she was gone. Only a puddle of water remained on the ground, and a few scattered petals. So, some people really do wait until the flowers wilt. Back home, I turned on the TV. The news was still reporting on Wu Ziqian. It seems he's a good actor after all, and we are all just audience members on the stage of his life. It's just that some choose to keep watching, while others choose to leave quietly. Mr. Chung, you need to come over. Zhang Xiaomei's voice was tinged with anxiety. Wei Lan is drunk and keeps causing a scene. I glanced at the time. It was already 2 in the morning. The moonlight outside was hidden by clouds. The entire city was immersed in darkness. Let her get some rest. But Zhang Xiaomei lowered her voice. She said she's going to look for you. She almost rushed out just now, but I stopped her. You know how stubborn she gets when she's drunk. I sighed. Send me the address. When I arrived at Zhang Xiaomei's place, Wei Lan was curled up on the sofa. Several empty liquor bottles lay scattered on the coffee table. Strong spirits she never used to touch. You're here. She looked up, her eyes hazy. I knew you'd come. Zhang Xiaomei tactfully went into the kitchen, leaving the two of us alone. Only a dim yellow floor lamp was on in the room, casting swaying shadows on the wall. Why didn't you answer my calls? She stood up unsteadily. Why did you block me? I have so much I want to tell you. There's nothing left to say. No, there's so much. She stumbled towards me. I need to tell you. I regret it. I regret it so much I can't sleep at night. I need to tell you. Enough. I cut her off. You shouldn't be saying these things to me, but I only want to say them to you. Tears streamed down her face. That day at the concert, watching someone propose to Ziqian, I finally understood. He was never the person I imagined him to be. He only ever cares about himself, always living in his own world. But you... I took a step back. Don't say any more, but you were always thinking of me. She stubbornly continued. Remember? Every time it rained, you can pick me up. Every time I worked late, you'd wait for me. Every time I was sad, you'd stay with me. But I didn't even know why you always made me Blue Mountain coffee. Because you said it was your favorite flavor. No, she shook her head, tears tracing an arc. It was because on our first date you asked what I wanted to drink, and I casually said Blue Mountain. I wasn't paying attention then. My mind was full of Ziqian. But you remembered. You remembered all these years. I watched her in silence. Do you know? Her voice choked with tears. The most ironic thing is, it wasn't until I lost you that I understood what love is. Not grand vows, not passionate promises, but quiet companionship. It's a pity you understood too late. I know. She gave a bitter smile. So I'm not asking for your forgiveness. I just want to tell you, all these years, every single thing you did, I remember. I was just too foolish to understand until now. As she spoke, her body swayed, about to collapse. Instinctively, I reached out and caught her, the familiar scent of her hair washing over me. Let me go, I said. Just hold me a little longer, okay? She rested her head on my shoulder, her voice as soft as a sigh. Let it be. The last time, I let her lean on me, feeling her tears soak my shirt. Once upon a time, this embrace felt so natural, so taken for granted. But now, it felt like a farewell. Chung Yuan fan, she murmured. I'm sorry. I loved someone I shouldn't have, and I failed the person I should have loved the most. After saying this, she finally couldn't hold on any longer and passed out. I settled her on the sofa and covered her with a blanket. Zhang Xiaomei came out of the kitchen and handed me a cup of hot tea. She's been like this lately. Whenever she gets drunk, she says she misses you. Take care of her. I put down the teacup. I should go now, Mr. Chung. Zhang Xiaomei started to say something, but hesitated. I took one last look at the sleeping Wei Lan. Stepping outside, the night breeze dispersed some of the smell of alcohol. I lit a cigarette, watching the smoke curl upwards. It turns out, some intoxication isn't from alcohol, and some pain isn't from love, but rather because we are all using our present clarity to regret our past confusion. I don't want to go with you. Wei Lan stood in Wu Zichin's studio, her voice trembling slightly. I stood outside the door, hearing that familiar voice. Zhang Xiaomei had asked me to come. She said Wu Ziqian was back in the country again, and she was worried about Wei Lan coming to see him alone. Going abroad is just temporary. Wu Ziqian's voice was still nonchalant. Once I've established myself, I'll naturally come back. Just like before. Wei Lan gave a bitter smile. You're always like this, leaving whenever you please. I heard the sound of a chair shifting. Through the crack of the half-open door, I saw Wu Ziqian walk to the window, his back to Wei Lan. You don't understand. This is a rare opportunity. The music scene over there is better. I can realize my own dreams. What about me? Wei Lan's voice was tinged with tears. Am I in your dream? Silence filled the room for a moment. I lit a cigarette, the smoke curling under the hallway light. Lan Lan, Wu Ziqian turned around, his tones softened. You know, music is my life. I understand now. Wei Lan suddenly became calm. It was like this 8 years ago, and it's still like this now. In your heart, I can never compare to those musical notes. You need to understand me. No, I don't need to understand anymore. Wei Lan cut him off. All these years, I've been thinking about what would have happened if I'd gone with you back then. Now, I finally understand. The ending would be the same. You're always chasing your own dreams, and I'm just a passerby in your life. I stubbed out my cigarette, preparing to leave. I had heard enough. Wait. Wu Ziqian's voice held a hint of panic. Don't be like this, Lan Lan. Once I get settled over there, I'll definitely come back for you. There's no need. Wei Lan's footsteps grew closer. I'm tired. I don't want to wait anymore. These years, someone has already shown me what it means to truly care. It's just a pity. A pity I realized it too late. The door was pushed open. Wei Lan froze. Clearly, she hadn't expected to see me here. Zhang Xiaomei asked me to come. I explained. She was worried about you. Tears immediately welled up in Wei Lan's eyes. You heard? I nodded. Go home. Don't come back here again. Chung Yuan fan. Wu Ziqian's voice came from behind. Are you here to laugh at me? I turned to face him. No. I came to see clearly what was so remarkable about the man she was once so captivated by. You. His face flushed red. Now I understand, I said calmly. You're nothing but a selfish dreamer. You can give up everything for your dream, but you never learn to stay for someone else. With that, I turned and left. Behind me, I heard the sound of something smashing. Wu Ziqian was probably losing his temper. In the hallway, Wei Lan caught up. Wait, I didn't stop walking. Thank you for coming, she said from behind me. But you don't need to worry about me anymore. I see things clearly now. The elevator opened with a ding. I stepped inside and pressed the button for the ground floor. Chung Yuan fan. Just as the elevator doors were about to close, her voice came through. You were right. Some people are destined to be just passers-by in life. The elevator began its descent. I watched the numbers change, one by one. Suddenly, I remembered that saying, some people, once missed, are missed for a lifetime. But for some people, missing them might be the right thing. When I walked out of the building, a light rain began to fall from the sky. I opened my umbrella and saw Wei Lan had come out too. She didn't have an umbrella and just stood there in the rain, looking up at the window of Wu Ziqian's studio. The light was on, shadows flickered, and a faint sound of a guitar drifted out. He was composing again. This time, it's probably a farewell song. And Wei Lan, finally, on this rainy day, saw clearly the phantom dream she had chased for 8 years. Teacher Chung is taking a long leave. As I was clearing my desk, I heard students discussing in the hallway. This was the first time I had requested a long leave for a month. The reason was simple. I needed some quiet. My mother called. Son, are you really going so far away? Yes, I'm going to see the sea. I looked at the plane ticket on the desk. Don't worry, Mom. I'll be back soon. Zhang Xiaomei said Wei Lan came to school every day, stood outside my classroom for a while, and then left. Today, hearing I was taking a long leave, she rushed over, but still missed me. Some words, once delayed, are simply too late. By the time I finished packing, it was almost 9 at night. Only scattered footsteps remained on campus. carrying my bag. I walked towards the school gate and saw a familiar figure in the distance. Waylon stood under the streetlight like a lost child. Seeing me, she hurried over. I heard you're leaving. I nodded. Yes, taking a break for a while. How long? About a month. She lowered her head, her voice trembling slightly. Is it because of me? I smiled faintly. No, I just want to go see the sea. Take me with you, okay? She suddenly looked up, tears welling in her eyes. Just like we promised during our honeymoon. Remember? You said one day you'd take me to see the most beautiful sunset. I remember. How could I forget? Back then, she leaned on my shoulder, saying she wanted to see every seaside sunset in the world. We planned so much, yet none of it came true. Sorry, I said softly. I want to go alone this time. Her tears spilled out at once. Are you really? Not giving me any chance at all? I looked up at the night sky. Waylon, I said softly. There's something I've always wanted to tell you. She wiped away her tears and looked steadily at me. These years, I'm grateful to you. Thank you for making me understand that sometimes loving someone means letting go. But I've already let go of those thoughts I shouldn't have had, she said urgently. I finally see clearly what's truly worth cherishing. I know, I smiled faintly. So please let yourself go too. Some wounds need time to heal. What about you? She choked out. Don't your wounds need time? They do. I looked at her. That's why I'm going to see the sea. I heard the sea breeze can heal anything. She stared at me blankly, tears silently tracing paths down her cheeks. Under the moonlight, her face overlapped with the girl in my memory. Only now we were no longer young. Take care. I turned to leave. Wait. She took an envelope from her bag. This is a letter I wrote for you. You can read it when you're bored on the road. I took the envelope and put it in my bag. Okay. You must come back. Her voice was thick with tears. Promise me. I didn't answer, just waved. As I walked out the school gate, I glanced back. She was still standing there, the streetlight stretching her shadow long, as if reaching all the way to my feet. Perhaps leaving really was the best choice. Like a drifting leaf, it needs a long journey of floating before finding its own place to settle. 1 year later, Teacher Chung, the children at this school really like you, a young teacher remarked. No wonder the principal said they'd managed to transfer a treasure like you. I smiled and continued organizing my lesson plans. The new school was on the other side of the city, far from my past life. Just like the scenery outside the window right now, everything is new. This past year, I've traveled to many places, seen many seas. Only now do I truly understand that the best way to love someone is to let each other live better lives. Teacher Chung, the office director, poked his head in. Someone named Zhang Xiaomei is looking for you. Says she's an old friend. I put down my lesson plan and went downstairs. Zhang Xiaomei was dressed the same way, but now there was a small stroller beside her, with a baby sitting inside. Mind if we sit somewhere? She pointed to the coffee shop next to the school. The coffee tasted different than before, but I couldn't say if it was better or worse. Just like life, it always changes its appearance inadvertently. Waylon is getting married. She got straight to the point. Her fiancé is also an elementary school teacher, a good person. I nodded. I hope she'll be happy. Aren't you sad at all? I looked at the plane trees outside the window, their leaves already turning yellow. Everyone deserves a fresh start. Zhang Xiaomei sighed. She looked for you for a long time. It wasn't until about 6 months ago that she slowly accepted reality. That's good. I took a sip of coffee. By the way, the baby is very cute. After saying goodbye to Zhang Xiaomei, I returned to the office. I opened the drawer, and an envelope fell out. It was the letter Waylon gave me that day. I had never opened it. Perhaps it was time. Yuan Fan. As I write this letter, I'm sitting in the coffee shop where we had our first date. Do you remember? That day, you were so nervous you knocked over your coffee, but you insisted on buying me new clothes. Thinking back now, that clumsy tenderness was the most moving love language. During this time, I've finally come to understand that love isn't about grand vows, but about quiet, enduring companionship. It's a pity I understood too late and missed the person I should have cherished the most. Yesterday, I dreamed again of you grading papers at the teacher's desk. Sunlight spilled onto your eyelashes, casting a gentle shadow beneath your eyes. Back then, I really should have looked at you more. I wish you happiness. Waylon. I put the letter back in the drawer, got up, and walked to the window. On the playground, students were playing basketball. Their laughter and cheerful voices drifted into the office. It was the first month of the new semester. Everything was full of hope. Teacher Chung, a student, ran in. I've finished my composition. Could you take a look at it for me? I returned to my seat. Okay, bring it here, let me see. The title of the composition was A New Beginning. I picked up my pen to grade it. Sunlight from the window spilled onto the draft paper, reflecting a warm halo of light. It turned out that a new life wasn't really that difficult after all. Just like teaching children to write compositions, as long as you put your heart into it, you can always create a moving story. The shopping mall was bustling with people in spring. I was standing in the literature section of the bookstore, selecting extracurricular reading materials for my students. How about this one? A familiar voice came from behind me. I turned around. It was Waylon. She was wearing a light-colored dress, looking like the girl next door. If it weren't for the wedding ring on her hand, I would have almost thought time had turned back. Long time no see. She smiled, but her eyes were somewhat evasive. Emma, long time no see. I took the book from her hand. It was Eileen Chang's Love in a Fallen City. You always liked this book. You still remember, she said softly, a hint of nostalgia in her voice. I heard you're doing well at the new school. I nodded. Yes, the students are very lovely. That's good. She looked down, tidying the bookshelf. I've also transferred to a new kindergarten, very close to home. I knew the home she mentioned was the home she shared with her new husband. Zhang Xiaomei had said he was a gentleman who took good care of her. Congratulations, I said sincerely. She looked up, a barely perceptible ripple in her eyes. Thank you. A long queue had formed at the counter, and we stood there in silence. Teacher Chung, a young voice called out. It was my student, Xiaolin. Are you here buying books too? I ruffled his hair. Yes, picking out some extracurricular reading for you. Xiaolin looked curiously at Waylon. Is this Annie a teacher too? Yes, I said. She's a kindergarten teacher. Waylon crouched down and helped Xiaolin adjust his backpack strap. Make sure you listen to Teacher Chung, okay? He's the best teacher. Of course, Xiaolin said proudly. After Xiaolin left, we walked together to the mall entrance. Would you like to get a cup of coffee? She asked tentatively. I shook my head. No, I need to get back to school to prepare for class. She nodded, smiling with understanding. Of course. I've kept you. Take care. I turned to leave. Chung Yuan fan. She called out from behind me. The rest of life is long. Look after yourself, too. I didn't turn around, just waved. You too. Outside the mall, the sunlight was perfect. The sky was very blue, just like the spring when we first met. Only this time, we had both learned to say goodbye with a smile. Back at school, I opened the new lesson plan I had prepared. The topic for next week's lesson was life. I wrote at the beginning, some people are destined to be merely passers-by in our lives. But it is these very passers-by who teach us how to properly love ourselves for the rest of our lives.